what would you say are the key issues that Democrats need to focus on?
Yeah, it's a great question. I always like to tell people, Janet, and listen when I was governor and served. I think the most important thing to people out there is a job that they can support themselves and their families with, and enjoy the quality of living that we have in Virginia. So I think the economy is really at the top of the list, and the prices, inflation, people having to pay more for gas, groceries, eggs, go right down the list, housing, renting, all of those things are so important. And I think the Democrats have a good message, and I think a plan to help bring down cost. As you know, during our administration, Virginia was the best state in which to do business, 3 years running. It was 7 when I came in. It was 4 the first year, and then we were #1 the last 3 years. And we worked hard at that. I actually told our Secretary of Commerce when I started as governor, I said, the one thing I really want you to focus on is to make sure that Virginia is business friendly. And we were able to accomplish that. And with business friendly comes access to quality health care. That is so important. We were able to get Medicaid expanded, which was over 600,000 Virginians that didn't have coverage. That was a big deal, especially before COVID. Having access to a world-class education. All of those things tie in to being business friendly. And so jobs, I think, are very important, and inflation. So that's certainly probably at the top of people's list from when I listen to folks. I think the second area, and any time that individuals go and look for a place to live and raise their family, access to health care is very important, especially in rural Virginia. And that's something that we are worried about right now with this big spending bill that was just passed in Washington. So that's important. And also access to education. So those are 2 areas I think Democrats are really focused on. And then the third area is our freedoms, and certainly our freedom to speech, our freedom to decide when and if we want to have a family. Those things are all important. And so I think the current ticket now, Abigail Hashmi and Jay, have done a good job traveling around Virginia. They'll continue to do that, listening to Virginians, seeing what's on folks' minds. And so I think those are the 3 main categories. There's other things as well, but those are the 3 main things that they'll be focused on.
What do you think the GOP needs to be focused on?
Republicans have held the banner of being the conservative party, fiscally and socially. Certainly when I was in government, and what that means is keep taxes low, keep regulations low, keep the influence of government overall small in people's lives, so that they can have all the tools and all the freedom that they need to pursue the American dream, to be entrepreneurial, to not put limits or too many government prohibitions against people, barriers to entry in business and so forth. So I think that's the primary goal overall, fiscally, in the education areas, to provide more choice, higher standards, better quality, more resources, but also really measuring of outcome. Not just pouring money into government programs, but measuring outcome. I think Glenn Youngkin's done a great job on that with a lot of his metrics programs to measure the outcomes and success of programs. So I don't see that conservatism has really changed. Sometimes the face of the person, the president, the governor, put a certain tone, if you will, on the message, but the basic Republican view of limited government, protecting traditional values, protecting the integrity of institutions like the family and marriage and so forth, have remained the same in the 30 years that I've been in office. Now the times change, and the nature of the challenges, especially at the federal level, change as the world changes with technology and countries rising up, against the American way of life. but I don't see, any profound changes in the basic way that the Republican approach to government works.
Okay. When you talk about physically conservative, so we've got a number of emails from lawmakers in Virginia, Governor, Kiggins, different people who all supported the big beautiful bill, who all say it was, they're praising it. Do you think what do you think about that bill?
First of all, I think the process in Washington is broken. Having been in state government for 30 years, we have such good rules on how bills are put together. It's got to have a single object. Every amendment's got to be germane. These bills in Washington, it's both political parties, is so broken because we have these massive bills. The big beautiful bill was about 800 and some pages. And of course, Democrats criticize that, completely forgetting that the Obamacare bill was 3,200 pages that nobody probably read. So these massive bills, and they're put together often for a process so that they only need a majority vote and don't have to be subject to the filibuster rules. So it's a way of getting around the procedural rules in the Senate. That's why the Republicans use reconciliation to do this. It's why Obama and Biden used the reconciliation process sometimes, so they didn't have to worry about cloture and filibuster rules in order to require 60 votes in the Senate to get things. Look, those are the rules, and both sides have abused the rules in order to get their way on legislation. So I think strategically, President Trump and his advisors have said, look, if you want to make good on a lot of your promises that you made, one way to do it is to put it all in one bill. So you don't give people a lot of choices. It's either a yes or no on everything. And on balance, if the bill is good, then you have to, have a little medicine go down with the things maybe that you don't like. So that was the strategy that they picked. Again, President Obama and Biden did much of the same thing on major bills, the American Rescue Act and so forth, and other things that were mega bills where there may be in good and bad, but you didn't get a pick. You had to vote up or down. So here's my critique of the big beautiful bill. I hate to call it that. I've never heard a bill. I mean, I know it was paraphrased from something President Trump said about it, but it prevents really the largest tax increase in Virginia in the history of the country. And I think that's good. It makes permanent the tax cuts that President Trump put in place in his first term. And given where the economy is now, with still high inflation and uncertainty in the markets and uncertainty abroad, I think we really needed to preserve those tax cuts. Otherwise, you're going to have rampant uncertainty in the market with tax increases. Secondly, I think what it does is it provides the resources for a stronger military, which is really good for Hampton Roads, especially for the Navy. And secondly, it provides the resources for border security. President Trump ran on it. It was the most important and unifying issue in this election. 69% of Americans said they thought the border was not secure and the policies were not right in the country, and we needed to fix them. He ran on it, so of course he's going to try to deliver on that. And there's a lot of money for border security as well as military spending in the bill. My critique of the bill is, and the biggest concern I've got about the federal government now is the last 3 or 4 administrations have dramatically increased the national debt of America. I mean, 25 years ago, we had a $5 trillion national debt. Today, it's 37. President Trump asked for another $5 trillion increase in the debt ceiling. Now, that takes it off the plate for his term, but where's this going to end? I'm so concerned, as are some others in Congress, about the level of spending that now gets us a $2 trillion deficit every year for the last couple of years under President Biden and now President Trump. And it's, at the end of the day, if you don't have your revenues match expenses, which of course in every state, and especially Virginia, that's required. You can't do deficit spending. You can do bond issuance, but it's got to be paid back over time. Yeah, and so states don't run like the federal government. We can't print money. We can't do deficit spending. And at some point, we're borrowing from our children's future. I think it's across the board for both parties is reckless and immoral to continue to run up the national debt because our kids or their kids are going to have to pay for it. So that's my critique of the bill.
When you start firing people, when your unemployment rate goes up, these are reasons why Virginians' ratings go down. And you know, depending on who our governor and elected officials want to serve, these individuals should stand up and say, we're not going to let that happen in Virginia. But they've condoned it, and here we are. Our numbers are going down, our unemployment rate's going up. And lastly, I would say, who wants to go to an area where they're sitting there firing people, you know, without any reason? And so, again, it's a domino effect that will end up affecting our economy at the end of the day.
Oh, and that leads to my next question is when you were talking about our leaders, is there enough daylight between the Republican leadership in Virginia and what Donald Trump is trying to do?
Not in my mind, and I just sit back and watch what's, you know, unfolding here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. But to condone and to say that firing all of these federal workers is okay, there's nothing in my mind that says it's okay. And again, I think it's going to impact on our Commonwealth negatively.
What about education? You know, there's certainly a move to have more school choice. Donald Trump says, I'm sending education to the states, and he's working on dismantling the Department of Education. I can't recall the latest judgment because it, you know, goes back and forth. Do you see that? Do you see any positives in that in terms of education here in the state of Virginia?
No, I think it's totally hypocritical. I mean, here he has said, we're going to let the states take care of education. We're going to let the governor appoint people to the Board of Visitors, which is what we've always done, and then let the Board of Visitors and the folks that are experts in education make those decisions with input from students, faculty, parents, etc. Freedom of speech. I mean, the Republicans say we should encourage and endorse freedom of speech. Well, maybe their freedom of speech means that if you say what they want you to say and they agree with it, fine. But if they don't, they get rid of you. And that's what we're seeing unfold at UVA. I'm worried about George Mason up in Northern Virginia. But to come in and federally put pressure through the state on the president of University of Virginia, on the Board of Visitors, meddling in an area that they shouldn't be meddling in is very, very dangerous and unacceptable. And again, what that does, Janet, people look at those situations. We want to encourage talent to come into Virginia. We want to be welcoming. We want those minds to come to our universities and study and do research and drive business. And when students and their families and faculty, researchers see what's going on, they're going to go elsewhere. That's just the way it is. And so it's very hypocritical.
I'd like to set a couple parameters on this because this is a very important issue for our country. I think it's indisputable that migrant labor in construction and agriculture have really been important to the economy because a lot of Americans don't want those jobs. The problem is that our system is so broken that we're having people come in to the country by the millions that are not doing it through the legal channels. And for people like me, and I think Governor Youngkin, all we want people to do is follow the rules. So that's number one. Number two, there's no right to just come to the United States of America because you're having a hard time in your own country. You can't just walk in and say, I deserve a place here. That's not the law. And secondly, if you overstay your visa, you don't just get to stay on because you've been here for a long time. And if you happen to get away with being here illegally for 10 or 20 years, that doesn't give you any greater right to remain here. And the president that deported more people than any other president in American history is Barack Obama, because he said, this is a verbatim quote, is we're a nation of immigrants, but we're also a nation of laws. And if you come here illegally, we have to enforce the law. He's exactly right. And that's what he did. And he deported 3.1 million people. If you add the people that were deported under Title 42 because of healthcare reasons, it was even more than that. So nobody's deported. In fact, he was called the deporter in chief by some Democrats in sort of a pejorative fashion. All he was doing was enforcing the law. He didn't pass any new laws. So President Trump isn't really even at the level so far of deporting people at the clip that President Obama did, or even President Biden at his high water mark in 2022, I think it was. But I do think that we either are going to have borders or we're not. And as many people in both political parties said, if you don't enforce your borders, you're not a nation, you're a landmass, you're just an amalgamation of states. You're not really a sovereign nation, because anybody can come in and then claim that they deserve the rights of citizenship. That's never been the policy of any president of any party.